Warning. Everything on this channel and video is for educational purposes only. All content is intended for people 21 years of age and older. All acts are performed by professionals and all people shown are 21 years of age and older. All acts are performed under the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. Do not attempt to recreate or reenact anything you see in this channel. Alright. So, I think you've been drying your plants wrong.
Hear me out.
In this video, I'm going to break down exactly why that is and what we should be focusing on going forward. Stay tuned.
Like we always do about this time.
Now, if you're new here, my name is Rob and we talk all things herb. Today in particular, we're going to be going over drying and curing, specifically how I've changed things over time and exactly how I'm drying and curing these days. If you like videos like this, do me a favor, hit that like button, share this with your fellow growmy, and if you're not a subscriber already, maybe you want to subscribe. Now, I've been growing for about 20 years now, which is crazy when you think about it. Not a bragging point, it's mainly just for the fact that I've seen a lot of bud, I've dried a lot of bud, and I've cured a lot of bud. And over the years, I've definitely noticed differences in the methods and how your overall impact on your drying and curing has on the end smoke. If you want good flavor, smoothness, and overall good smoke, a proper dry and cure is massively important. And if you've been watching this channel for years, beating a dead horse, you already know this. If you're new to the grow game, well, check out some of the other videos on this channel. It'll explain a lot more. Before we jump into the drying, let's give a quick shout out to the sponsors who help make all this content available for free for all of you guys, and also provide us with some amazing discounts. AC Infinity, one of the leaders in the game when it comes to grow equipment. Whether it be lighting, ventilation, or a whole entire grow kit, AC Infinity's got your back. Use discount code CLtv at checkout at acinfinity.com or CLTVAC10 on Amazon. And also Seedsman. If you're looking for some dank genetics, Seedsman's got your back. Use discount code CLTV at checkout to save on your order. Now, why have I been focusing on VPD and dew point over our regular drying and curing parameters?
Let me explain.
Well, vapor pressure deficit, or VPD, is how much moisture the air can still absorb. Think of it like a sponge. When the air is dry, it pulls moisture from your buds faster, and when it's too humid, drying slows down. We need the right balance for the buds without over drying or too much moisture because we don't want to run into mold. Too high a VPD will result in bud drying too fast and a loss of terpenes. Too low a VPD, well, the buds will dry too slow and potentially risk mold. And this is something that is detrimental to your grow. All that time that you've been growing and you just wasted at the finish line? Nah. Not for me, dog. Now, the key to preserving potency, aroma, and flavor is definitely going to be within dew point and VPD. Now, dew point is the temperature where the air becomes saturated with moisture and condensation forms. If the temp drops too low at night, moisture can start forming on your buds. This sweating effect can ruin terpenes and create breeding ground for bacteria. Now, to avoid this, you'll want to always keep your temperature and humidity just a pinch outside of that dew point range, and you want to make sure you're dialing that VPD. Now, my last run, I was in and out of the dry tent in about 6 days, which is absolutely crazy to me, but these conditions were right for these particular cultivars. And that's the thing, is not all genetics are going to dry exactly the same. When you're looking at bigger buds that could potentially take longer to dry, well, your drying conditions may need to vary. If you're dealing with something that's more airy, like a sativa structured bud, something more foxtaily, this likely will dry up a lot faster, or even smaller, more popcorn buds. So changing your parameters may be important depending on the situation you have with your flower. Now, in 2014, there was a study published in the National Library of Medicine called In Pursuit of Optimal Quality, Cultivar-Specific Drying Approaches for Medicinal Cannabis. This study suggests that tailored drying conditions for each specific cultivar can enhance the preservation of specific cannabinoids and terpenes, offering a more efficient and mold-resistant drying method. Now, essentially, not all cultivars are the same, and this is a huge reason why I've changed my drying method. And originally I saw something by a guy named Shark Mouse on Instagram. Now, as the layers dry more and more, you need to change your parameters in the garden. Your humidity and temperature level may need to change because the exterior layer of the flower is already dried. So now our next layer needs to dry at a different level. And the next layer, almost like an onion, or like Shrek, if you got kids. Now, in this case, you do need to look at things from a more scientific approach. It's no longer just put it in a room and let it dry for 14 days at a 60-60 rate. You will need to change things up consistently, and this usually is every 3 days, depending how long you're going to be drying. A study by the Cannabis Research Coalition recommends maintaining a VPD around 0.8 kPa during the drying to achieve the optimal rate of moisture loss. Now, maintaining drying room temperatures above the dew point prevents moisture from condensing on buds, reducing that mold risk. So you can kind of see how the VPD and the dew point work hand in hand, and it's not just a focus on temperature and humidity, it's how those work together. So let's break down exactly how I dry my bud and the parameters that we'll have throughout these days. So from day 1 to 3, I'm averaging a 0.8 to 1 kPa, or a temperature of 65 to 68 with a humidity of 60 to 65. By day 4 to 7, I'm moving this to 0.6 or to 0.9 which is a temperature of 62 to 67 with an RH of 58 to 62. And depending on the flower, if I have to go further, we're going to move into 0.6 to 0.8, or a temperature of 60 to 55 relative humidity. Now, keeping the temperature stable prevents excessive terpene loss, which any of us who are consumers definitely are going to be aiming for. Now, dropping that humidity slightly over time will help you gradually dry those buds in the right way. Now, hygrometers and dehumidifiers are definitely going to help you in the garden, but one thing I really would recommend getting is a wood moisture meter. If you're new to the game, this will help you decide when your plant is dry enough and ready to go. Now, this is where tools like the CLtv have shined, but for me, it's too expensive. I feel like adding that green tax onto everything just is unfair for us home growers. Makes sense if you're in a commercial grower in the trap, but if you're just smoking, that's a big investment. Now, I know there are a lot of people who have it, and I'm not knocking it. It's an amazing product, there's no denying that, but in the scheme of things, I'm not paying that kind of money for a drying chamber. Which is exactly why I just did all of my drying right here in the 2x4 or 4x2 Grow Tent. And this was pretty easy. When you're able to dial in the controls here with the controller AI, it really makes things easy. Actually, this is just a controller 6.9 Pro, and these will make it so you can dial in the parameters for exactly what you need in the proper drying chamber. Now, the only downside is this will cause for you having to shut down the garden for a little while, but you're going to be able to reset and take care of everything for your next run basically a week later. It's not going to be too much further out. Now, for myself, it was ballpark 8 days. 6 days and the peanut butter breath was dry and ready to go. And the others took a little bit longer because they were a little more dense and the buds weren't as sparse. But I was able to pull these out of here in less than 10 days, and I was able to get them right into the Grove bags, which for me was a simple, amazing option. Now, a lot of people swear that they need the slower, longer dry time, and I used to be this guy in the past, but I really do feel that this changed my whole perception on drying, and honestly has made it so I feel the smoke is a little bit better. And now this is where the wood moisture meter does come into play. Anything above 12% is going to be too far in terms of moisture. Anything below 10% will be too far in terms of dryness. So usually we aim for around 10 to 12%. This will make sure that your bud's not too brittle when it's going into the container and not overly dried out. And then also, again, it's not too moist. If you're storing bud that's too moist, it could potentially mold, and that's a no-go for any of us. You obviously want to focus on the temperature where you're drying things, but also where you're curing things. A cold cure is going to be more ideal so we can preserve those terpenes. So when it boils down to it, everybody's drying and curing method may be a little bit different, but there is some science to back some of these methods. So if you're looking to maintain your terpene quality and your flavonoids and overall cannabinoids, you want to make sure that you're drying and curing your bud properly. Growers who are looking for that secret sauce usually are just missing something from their garden. And to help with that, we bring you the Stash Blend Premium Plant Additive. Stash Blend brings beneficial bacteria, silicon, seaweed, humic acid, and has enough macronutrition to help lower the dosages of your base feed too. Unleash your plant's true potential with Stash Blend Premium Plant Additive. Available at Growers House.